Hello, welcome to First Thoughts. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre,
I'm Caleb.
and today we're discussing the recent Dracula horror film, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, a colossal box office bomb that me and about 15 other people went and saw. So, you're welcome. I enjoyed this. I know you have a bit more problems with it than I do. But overall, solid effort, enjoyable time at the movies, and another decent flick that's going to tank this year and completely fly under the radar and never be spoken about again.
Yep, not even horror is getting affected by this weird box office season. Even look, even though I had my issues with this film, aka they should really time the fuck out of the script a lot more. Um, and the runtime was way too much. It still had a mostly good time, and I was hoping to be a big hit. Especially because I've so far really liked Andre Overdall's work. I mean, Troll Hunter, Autopsy of Jane Doe. I personally like scary stories to tell in the dark. Um, I've enjoyed, but apparently, yeah, this film, I guess, like people just, I don't know if it was poor advertisement or people just not caring in this weird box office season, but yeah.
Well, I remember the trailer came out earlier this year, and I watched it and thought, like, oh, that looks interesting. You know, they used Bullet with Butterfly Wings by Smashing Pumpkins in the trailer, and it was like, this looks intriguing. And then I don't think I saw it attached to any movie like that I saw. Like they just didn't advertise this thing at all. Which is so weird because that's how you get people to know you're making a movie. You got to
Well,
tell people. You can't just hope they find it. That's how you tank.
apparently, studios don't have that mindset. Because look what they're doing with Gran Turismo. They're like, well, if the actors can't promote the film, the audience can. They knew that weird, like 2 week special screenings for audience members to promote the film before it hits wide now. I'm like, you guys know all you have to do is advertise your movie, right? You don't need the actors. You just have to advertise the film so people know it's coming out.
This is how we've done it for like 100 years. Why is this all of a sudden a complicated situation? I I don't know, but yeah, this on a budget of 45 million, the last voyage of the Demeter has only made 6.5 million so far. So basically, if you don't make it back opening weekend, you're pretty much fucked. So bye bye. And I am a fan of Overdall's work as well. I haven't seen Troll Hunter, but I really like The Autopsy of Jane Doe, and I really like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. This dude's a talented filmmaker. I hope this doesn't derail him too much. Because I was hoping for a Scary Story sequel. That movie freaked me out way more than I
He
expected it to.
he said right before this came out that it was still on the table. That apparently the strike of the pandemics but slowed it down. That they were talking about it. It was happening, and then world events happen. Hopefully this doesn't like I said, derail from that. But we'll see. You should check out Troll Hunter. Troll Hunter's so goddamn good.
I've heard it's great. I want to for sure. I will. Um,
You know what? If you don't, I'll see if it's streaming, or if you haven't seen it by the time you come.
there you go.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that and the extraction films.
All right. Um, so this is the second movie this year that has been adapted somewhat from Dracula. The other being Renfield earlier this year, which also underperformed and kind of disappeared really quickly.
That one makes me mad because I really liked Renfield. How dare you people?
I know, like that was enjoyable. It was just as over the top as I wanted it to be. You had just Nicolas Cage just enjoying the shit out of playing Dracula, and a neat, cool take on the story because Dracula has been done a dozen times, more than that. Like it's one of the most adapted stories of all time, and there's a lot of decent ones. There's not a lot of there's a lot of bad ones. I think it's public domain, so you can kind of just do whatever you want.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And this movie is adapted from the captain's log of the Demeter in the novel. Uh, the ship carrying Dracula from Romania to England arrives in port, completely deserted. And everyone's like, what happened to the crew of the Demeter? And then the novel continues. Dracula goes to Carfax Abbey, starts seducing English women, and, Bob's your uncle. So this little bit about the Demeter, just kind of, a mystery that Stoker just, I guess, didn't bother to tell us about. So
I didn't care to
no,
elaborate on back then.
yeah, I was like, Dracula showed up and everyone's gone. Isn't that creepy? Well, moving on. And which is interesting. But it's a cool little bit to mine for a movie, what happened on that ship. And yeah, I think for what this, what Overdahl was going for, I think he pulled it off. It was creepy. It was unnerving at times. Dracula himself is like the most monstrous he's ever been on film, which was very exciting to me because that's the Dracula I've always wanted to see. And I liked the character development on these people. You actually liked them. You knew why they were here, why they were doing it, what they wanted. You cared when they died, and if you read the novel and knew this at all, you knew no one was making it off the ship alive. You knew this was going to end badly. But yeah, that I thought it was I won't say a triumph, but a success.
Yeah, look, so I like the take on Dracula. I mean, no offense to you, I've not really cared that we haven't had this fearsome Dracula because I've liked most of the adaptations we've had anyway. Hasn't really bothered me. I like the idea of the duality of him being a seducer, but also deep down in there is a fucking monster just waiting to get unleashed. But with that said, I like Javier Botet as a more monstrous take on this, and it makes sense he'd be more monstrous because I know that he would be kind of famished and hungry on this voyage, and they've always kind of played with that idea in a lot of the adaptations. I don't think the book really went into it. It may have hinted at it. The idea that if he doesn't feed, he becomes more monstrous. So kind of leaning into that for the movie, I think was a smart idea. I like the actors. The cast was great. They're very committed. I like that we got a gothic horror film released in theaters. That's what this was very much gothic horror. But with that said, 2 hours was way too I thought it was dragging at times. It was very repetitious. After a while, after the second beat of someone dies at night, they freak out, someone else stands to watch, and then dies at night. They freak out, they talk about it, then someone else stands to watch at night and dies at night. I was like, holy shit, stop doing this. Get your shit together. Someone's picking you off. That repetition part is what really fucking killed me. And for me, I was like, okay, scale this the runtime down. Take it down to a solid more hour and a half, hour 40 minutes. And actually ramp it up. I think, and I was talking to Josh about it earlier, you get a good idea where it's maybe devote more time if you scale it down a bit with more time given to the characters and play more into the paranoia and stuff of the crew wondering what's going on. I have seen online people be like, why don't they just attack him during the day? Yeah, I remember we know who Dracula is. They don't. But I think if they played in that paranoia more, abandoned that repetitious structure and had more of a ramp up as they get more paranoid and all of a sudden, we get to a moment where they realize, oh shit, this is what we're dealing with, and this thing just starts going ape shit on the crew. I think would have had me in a bit more, but the runtime with that repetitious nature just had me kind of get to the point where I felt like it was dragging at times. And then personally, and this is just me, I did not need the afterboat stinger. I think they should have just ended it with when the police find the boat, Dracula attacks, and then it should just cut right there to credits and not need the extra and now look what he's going to do after, because again, you even say in your scroll at the beginning it's based off the book. So you're just telling me hey, if you want to know what happens, just read the goddamn book and you'll know what happens. So get rid of that stinger. I didn't need it.
I think it would have been funny if at the end, Dracula's in his garb at the bar, but it's Gary Oldman, and it's just coming soon, Dracula. It's you can go watch it right now.
And that was another thing. They kind of hinted at the idea of this is a monster person, but then when they show him at the end where he's clearly fed, he's getting back to being in society, he still looked like a monster. I was like, there's no way in hell people are falling for that look.
Well, I mean, they did in Nosferatu.
Yeah, that they were simpler back then.
It's the same time period.
I don't know what you're talking about.
When you have a rich, eccentric guy who looks kind of weird, you just assume, oh, this is fourth or fifth generation inbreeding. It's okay. It's okay. I'll use big words. You don't think that guy's a vampire because you don't want to be improper.
Who gives a shit? But no, that was kind of like my issue with it. It was like it was there for me. There's so much I was enjoying, but it was just like the script. I would say the script. Overdose direction's great. The acting's great. I love the monster design. I love the goal when we got it. The script to me needed a little, especially for a film that was like 2 decades, and who knows how many of active development those 2 decades was, and how much was making a script just sitting on a table for a bit, on a shelf, as we've learned happens quite a bit. Looking at like Paranormal Activity before it actually came out, but it could have used just to me a bit more tightening up, and reworking to really make it into something like fucking special. Because I love what they're going for. This idea of taking this chapter and saying, hey, let's explore what happens. Like I said, it's a very brief chapter in the book.
I'm with you. Yeah, it is a bit long and it is repetitious, but also in the context of the movie, there's no other options. Like someone has to drive this thing. Someone has to sail the ship. Someone has to keep watch on figure out what the hell's going on. No one immediately thinks like the undead are hunting us. And yeah, like you said, why don't they just kill him during the day? I love that there's people who are like obviously it's Dracula, go take care of it. Like,
yeah,
they don't know that.
Yeah, I'm not saying like, look, the first like 1 or 2 times that they were like, look, we gotta still stay in the watch. I'm like, as someone who's in the Navy, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. They would do that because they don't know what's going on. Like, hey, someone has to go out there. That's like the third time, I'm like, stop sending people up there at night. Clearly something's going on.
I found it interesting that like when they did find Dracula's coffin, they just didn't do anything with it. Like I thought they were gonna throw that fucker overboard, maybe like wait, go find it during the day and light his ass on fire.
Yeah, and that is another thing. Like they find it, and then like they find the one thing of like soil because they find the lady.
Mm-hmm.
Like you guys, and then when they're looking, they see all the other like boxes of soil. I'm like, you guys don't want to do a more thorough investigation. You're not thinking this is a bit weird, and maybe we should look. And also, do we want to see what's in the soil? Because she was in one of those boxes. You guys may want to check what's in the other boxes.
That is interesting. Yeah, apparently Dracula just brought one lunchbox and filled the other ones with just dirt. Well, they don't immediately think, oh, this lady was kidnapped or something. They're like, stowaway. How dare you, bring bad luck upon our boat? Like, yeah.
But insane. That's also what I mean. Like, I think would have had the film played up things like that, the paranoia and the superstitions of the men more, it would have worked even better for me. Because back then, especially back then, sailors were like that. They were superstitious. There's a reason even our modern Navy took so long to allow females on the boats because of that fucking long held superstition of like, no, we don't let females on the boat. They're bad luck.
That is some ridiculous shit. But yes, I agree. They start going in that direction towards the beginning, but then once people start getting picked off, they start actually being a little proactive about it. Like, what's really happening here? And yeah, I don't know. It's got a similar vibe to Alien, which I respected. But I do agree that like the paranoia could have been ratcheted up a bit more. The post ship thing, I do like the idea that like he's trying to find Dracula. I was looking forward to actually like seeing like Dracula in the garb like on his way to go handle business. I was hoping he did look like I thought they were gonna get like a neat actor or something to play him.
I was hoping for an actual like we get like maybe a really cool cameo actor.
How fucking great would it have been if it was Nicolas Cage?
Oh my god, I would have loved it.
Ah,
because again, and I get why they stuck with the look they did, but like I said, it was like you're clearly playing with that ideal of like he only looks like this because he hasn't fed and he needs to feed. So like if we're getting to that point where he's back in society, he should look human again because he's had plenty of time to feed. and he's walking around fine and dapper, so you would think he would look human now. He looks more like society, so he can get his meals every night.
Mm, yeah. I don't know. Maybe it was sequel bait, which it's not going to get. That's for sure.
No,
Ah.
which is, and that could be me in general. Like, I I'm always like 50-50 on sequel bait. Like sometimes I'm like, just have the movie in without teasing a sequel.
Yeah.
So then, like, if we don't get it, like, I'm perfectly fine with this ending. But if it's a movie I like and I get that sequel bait, then I'm just infuriated because I'm like, fuck, it flopped. I'm never getting this awesome sounding sequel that was promised me.
I miss the days when it was just one movie. Like we put they put all their resources into making this movie really good. And if it got a sequel, great, but they weren't aiming for part two. We're always aiming for part two now. And I don't like that. We don't always need a franchise. Like make individual movies really good and people will see them.
Yes, like just focus on the one movie and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, let's pad this fucker out. Let's talk about Dracula. Uh so have you read the book?
Long time ago, very long time ago.
Do you remember any thoughts on it? Like you liked it, you didn't like it?
I remember I liked it, but it took me a minute because I didn't realize it was apostolatory, or how you say that word. I'm fucking screwing it up. But a lot of it is told through like letters and stuff throughout the book.
I didn't know there was a word for that. So there.
There is a word. You are a writer. How dare you not know there's a
I don't
word?
write my books in journal entry form, do I? Chapter 1. This dude's doing this right now. That's how I write. Well,
Okay, it's like apostolary or how to say it. Um, but yeah, it took me a while to get used to that because that's always like a format that takes a bit to get used to.
mhm.
Um, but I remember I liked it, and like I said, it's been years since I've read it. Um, but yeah, I do remember liking it. It's been one I've been meaning to like get just to have in my collection because it's a classic.
I picked it up a while back. One of those Barnes and Noble paperback, black cover classics that you see all the time. I've
Mm.
got a few of those, and Dracula's one of them. I read it for the first. I read it in my junior year of college for a Victorian literature class I was taking. We read two novels in that class. The first one was this novel called North and South by a writer I do not remember. It's one of your typical, Victorian romance novels with a lot about society as well. I didn't read it. I didn't want to. I had to fake an essay, and I ended up getting a B on the essay because I'm good at that. Uh, but our second novel was Dracula, and I'd always wanted to read Dracula, so I actually did read Dracula, and I wrote a paper about like comparing Dracula's um desire for to feed and create more vampires as like an allegory for European invasion of England and like their fears that dainty English women were going to be tainted with Eastern European babies, which was a real fear back then. Like I got an A on the paper. I was so happy. But anyway, I was very impressed with Dracula. I thought it was a very engaging novel. I liked the story. I liked the characters. And what I really liked was how fucking sadistic Dracula is in the novels. And there's been a lot of film versions of him. I feel like none of them have ever really captured just how inhuman he is. And that's why I was so happy to see Botet's version of this character, because it really does play with an absence of humanity, just pure monster, just absolute chaos, evil, and blood. And that's the
Yeah,
novel I saw in the book. I mean, the Dracula I saw in the book.
the novel you saw in the book, nice.
I saw a whole novel in that book, and I can't wait to read that.
I get that. I get that to an extent. Even I think they went a little bit like too far on that side because the thing in the book is like, yeah, he's sadistic, but he's talking normally. He's just a fucking sadistic son of a bitch.
That's fine.
Well, he does it. Whereas this one kind of barely talked. It had some moments where I was like, "Ooh, okay."
Well, I mean,
Uh,
think about it. Do you talk to your food? I don't.
I mean, if you're for this sadistic version, you're talking about, yeah, he would. Based off the book, he did.
Fine.
Because he, so to me, actually, Klaus Bangs, I think is how you say his name. He did the BBC adaptation of Dracula.
Mhm.
It was like 3 episodes. The first 2 episodes were great. That third episode, final one sucked ass, but the first two were great.
What a
He to me
great,
was really
what
good.
a great endorsement.
Yeah. Watch the first two. You don't need to worry about the third episode. Um, he was great because he went into that sadistic route where he just you could tell he enjoyed what he was doing to these people so much, and he could do like the charming, draw you in with his charm, but then just flip it on and be like, no, I'm going to fucking kill you.
Well, I do like this almost serial killer nature of Dracula, where he is just this like lying, manipulating son of a bitch. What I don't like that a lot of the movies did was turned him into a romantic, where he's always pining after a lost love or trying to, find that, the one who got away and his queen that he can rule the world with. It's like none of that shit was in the book. I don't need that. I don't want a romantic Dracula. I want a vicious fuck who's there to kill.
I don't really. Yeah, you kind of saw it about Lugosi's, but you still saw viciousness with him for its time. You got to
It's
remember
there
1930.
it never sacrifices the viciousness for the romanticism, but it's always like shoved in there. The Gary Oldman Dracula, especially, that movie is mostly him trying to like get Winona Ryder to fall in love with him, which blew. I didn't care for that.
Right.
Yeah, and then Lugosi's one, I I think his performance is great. That movie is so boring. I can't get it. I've seen it twice now, and I can't get into it. It's like an hour 15. It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't drag, but it does, man.
I think it's that boring shit. I don't mind necessarily like the having romance in there because I like the idea of the juxtaposition of like there is like that like that thing he loves, but like it's that duality of man, that idea of like on one hand he can be romantic, he can be charming, but if you cross him, he will absolutely fucking destroy you.
But he's not a man. He's a monster. Like he was a man once upon a time, but he hasn't been a man for
So,
hundreds of
so
years.
he is a man and a monster.
He's not a he's evil incarnate. He's supposed to be this just, remorseless, endlessly hungry freak. I think the actor who's best portrayed that side of him is probably Christopher Lee. Uh, the movie played fast and loose with the novels, like, you know, the way it does Harker and Van Helsing was kind of like, I don't know about this, but that was just the horror of Dracula. I got to watch the other ones. So it is, it's been touched on, but like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking for. I just know I'll find it when I like. I'll know when I see it.
Yeah, I get it. I don't think we'll ever get like a true blue from the book version of Dracula. I think it's always going to be they're going to pick and choose what they want to take. You just got to deal and pick a version you like.
I guess. I watched the Frank Langella version not too long ago. Back when Renfield came out, we were going to do this big Dracula thing on the podcast, but like no one had seen enough and like to warrant that kind of an episode. And I didn't want anyone to have to load up on Dracula for a week and a half. So we axed it. But I started doing some prep for that. So I watched the Langella Dracula, and that had the same problem. But he was less of a monster and more of just a dick, which was kind of weird. He was just like mean to people, like rude, and then like tried to again get like Mia or not Mia, Mina, sorry, Mina and like her sister in the movie to like be his. It was just like again, I was like, God damn it, why you keep doing this? Why you keep giving me sexy long hair romantic Dracula?
Because they're basing off Bela Lugosi's, not the novel.
Yeah, there's
More people know the movie than they do the novel.
well, that's not my problem. That's society's problem. Go fucking read.
That's a tall order you're asking society.
I know. But you think at this point, like even people who haven't read Dracula, they know Dracula. They know what it is. They know who he is. So just go with it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I at this point, like I said, I don't think we'll get a true version of the character. I think this year's two different interpretations have been some of my more favorites with Javier Potet in Last Voyage and Nicolas Cage in Renfield. Like he was excellent in that. But for me, like when it comes to like wanting a vicious, I honestly, it hasn't been a Dracula film that's captured my attention when it comes to viciousness. There's been vampire films I've watched that I've enjoyed that are vicious. Um, and for anyone who might be confused with that statement, what I mean is like movies like Daybreakers and 30 Days a Night, Stakeland, films like that. That to me, like, no, they're not. Dracula's not in them. They just do with vampires, but they fucking deliver in the goddamn like. Oh, you guys want some brutal? Like they don't care about love. They don't. They just want to fucking feed and feed and feed. Here you go. This is your movie.
I've always viewed Fright Night as like the best Dracula story we've ever gotten. Like the way Chris Sarandon plays Jerry Dandridge is very reminiscent of Dracula. It just feels like a modern day Dracula. And like I wouldn't be surprised, Dracula relocated to America, changed his name to Jerry, and has just been rolling from town to town, killing prostitutes. That makes sense to me. Uh, so I like that. He's my favorite cinematic vampire by like a mile. And watching it with the idea that like he's Dracula just makes the movie even more entertaining.
Yeah, no, I really like the Fright Night quite a bit. Even actually, I'll say it, the remake, it's not that bad.
Remake's fine. I think it's a really fun movie.
Yeah, the remake is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll go to bat for the Fright Night remake for sure.
Yeah, I thought Colin Farrell was actually pretty good in the role too, and a good choice for that role.
I think they're all cast very well. I love David Tennant as Peter Vincent. I love that Charlie's mom has a bigger role in it with Toni Collette.
Mm-hmm.
Even Anton Yelchin does a great job. Christopher Mintz-Plasse is okay. He wouldn't have been my choice for Ed, but he's okay.
I mean, he did that not too long, I think, after Superbad and all that stuff. So it's like no one was going to get that out of their heads. You know what I mean? He ever since Superbad, it's just McLovin anytime we see him.
I know. I don't think anyone ever calls him by his name. He's just McLovin.
Yeah.
It's gotta suck. But yeah, vampire movies are, the non-Dracula ones I think are better. I think they get more leeway to kind of just make shit happen.
Well, they just take the mythos and find cool ways with them. Like the three I mentioned, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stakeland. Basically, it says fuck a zombie apocalypse, vampire apocalypse. Like America got overtaken by vampires, and it's about this guy that has to travel across it. I forget his reason. But in the thing, like those vampires are fucking brutal. They come out of nowhere and they attack until you are fucking dead or you kill them. Like they are brutal. They are terrifying. They made a sequel. I've not seen it yet. It's been a while since I've seen Stakeland itself. I need to rewatch it. But again, cool concept with that. Like, hey, well, vampire apocalypse. With 30 Days a Night. Yes, it is based off a graphic novel, I believe, by Steve Niles, something like that. But the concept behind that is that what if vampires attacked a small town in Alaska that quite literally has a time in its cycle with how Alaska is, where they have experienced an entire month of just night. How the fuck do you get out of that? Like these vampires have 30 days of free reign on this town to obliterate these people. And the vampires in those films are fucking brutal. Again, they're brutal. They're terrifying, like the way they look with their long ass nails and they're talking to each other, and all they can think is like, how do we feed on every single person in this town? And then Daybreakers, obviously, again, this time like vampires have become like the predominant living species on Earth, and they are like training humans as blood bags and fucking banks.
That's crazy.
And then it does that cool thing where if they don't feed after so long, they become more feral.
I love that bit. It's a spoiler, but like when a certain character gets like cured right as he gets devoured, I thought that was so poetic.
Yes.
I think I love Fright. For me, like my all-time favorite vampire movie is a tie between Fright Night and Blade.
Blade's another good one. Now again, just takes those mythos and fucking just finds a way to work with them.
That franchise royally fucked up Dracula in part 3 though, which is a shame.
Yeah, it did.
And then of course, one of my favorites that the entire team has disavowed many times, Van Helsing, with Richard Roxburgh's lovely interpretation of Count Chocula. It's so ridiculous and over the top and very much like, like he's so hammy. But that movie's story is fucking cool. I'll go to bat for that movie. That's a fun, mindless, entertaining movie.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Ah, um, I wrote 3 vampire novels myself. I don't usually plug on this show, which is weird because I should be plugging all the fucking time, but I don't. But I'm gonna. I wrote 3 vampire novels myself, vampire westerns, Consequence, Devil's Blood, and Meadowsweet that I thought turned out pretty good. I have a sequence in my second book where my characters get a train gets derailed by a group of vampire like scavengers who take them to this town in the middle of the desert that's covered by a circus tent, so they can't get sunlight, and they make them play Russian roulette for their lives, and the losers get their brains blown out and thrown to the crowd of hungry vampires. And I have this one character named Logan Bates who has a like a Glasgow smile kind of thing, and he has his mouth sewn up, and then when he feeds he takes like the thread out and his mouth just hangs open like this giant, like a fucking snake, and he just latches onto the whole fucking neck and just drains. It's fucking creepy. And yeah, I like vampires.
There's a lot of cool stuff Oh, Underworld. I've always liked
Underworld. I thought Underworld did a cooler job with the werewolves than they did with the vampires.
I liked what they did with like the hierarchy and social structure of the vampires. Since I know they have all these houses that they brought in, but yeah, what they did with werewolves. If I was in that world, I'd be like, make me a werewolf, please.
Yeah, like Jesus Christ. I mean, you basically like a roided out, super dog. It's awesome.
Yeah. I would hate to get attacked by one of those fucking things. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, good. I don't think does anybody even get bitten by those things? Like they just ravage and rip people apart.
Yeah, but at the same time, being a vampire, Kate Beckinsale. Let's be honest, guys.
Well, her type is bland werewolf vampire hybrids, so we all stand a chance on that front.
Yeah, you got a point there.
Unless your name is Scott or Speedman, good luck.
Who?
Ouch. I thought the second film had such a cool plot with like the first vampire and the first werewolf being like brothers who like created a whole bloodline, and like the way Marcus and I think what was it, William?
Yeah, William.
Yeah, the way they looked was so fucking badass. Like half dead bat monster dude. Like that movie, that one's my favorite of the franchise. That's just got such a cool story and executed so well.
The first 3 are solid.
Mm-hmm.
After that, they did kind of struggle a bit with trying to keep it going, especially since Kate Beckinsale was game to come back, and thank God, for a lot of reasons. But Scott's, the guy I made a joke about earlier, apparently is doing so much he can't come back to this franchise.
Yeah, so I love that they put like a stand-in with like with Speedman's face like digitally put over the stand-in or whatever they did with that, so they could kill him at the beginning of 4.
Right? I'm like, look, Speed Scott, man.
Speed Scott, man.
What are you really doing to not be in these like movies that you're mostly known for? Because other than that, you get The Strangers, and that's about it.
Yeah. I don't know. The shit people, the career decisions people make when they think they're hot shit, or as I call it, the Ja Rule effect. Anyway, yeah. Dracula's got a long history. You watched the Werner Herzog's Nosferatu, right?
Yeah, I did. Where Klaus Kinski played him.
How did that measure up?
That was really good. That was a fucking phenomenal movie. Apparently you got a sequel. Nosferatu in Venice, or the fuck they called it.
Did Kinski come back?
I have no idea. Probably not.
I mean, if they paid him enough, he'll do anything.
This is true. No, that one was really, really good. Kinski was actually fucking great as Nosferatu. He killed it. Set design was beautiful because they made it look like very much like the original like Nosferatu, but obviously in the 70s and in color. I was really blown away by that one. That was a really good one.
Yeah, I gotta watch that. I've only barely tapped into Herzog. I will definitely be watching that at some point. Uh, yeah, I think we've like there was that Luke Evans movie from 2014. You remember that Dracula Untold?
Yeah, I tried watching it. I just could not. I tried so many times. I was like, this is fucking stupid.
Well, the fact that they tried to like mold the legend of Dracula with like the story of Vlad the Impaler and made him a hero, that was fucked up.
Yeah, dude, that was a time when Universal America was like adamant that they can't do a horror films and won't make money. So like they were doing like Dracula Untold and the fucking ill-fated Tom Cruise mummy movie film. And I'm like, you guys don't know what the fuck you're doing with this, do you?
Yeah, I don't know what was the game plan that like what was the end game for that? What was going to be their Avengers movie?
I don't know. Remember that stupid photo they did to show like he's playing? And I'm like, I don't want to see any of these actors in the same room.
Did Yeah, they're not at all. No, I was gonna say, yeah, it came out later that like, nope, they just superimposed. Like, which sucks. I think like a Johnny Depp Invisible Man and a Javier Bardem Frankenstein would have been really cool to see.
Possibly, but I also really like the Invisible Man movie we got.
Yeah, me too. And also under that Dark Universe banner, those movies probably would have sucked.
Probably. And as we're learning, people don't want franchises anymore.
They don't. The bubble popped. I can't really pinpoint when, but yeah, the bubble popped. uh
Word. Like a pimple.
Like it was like that moment in Osmosis Jones where like the zit just flies off of Bill Murray's forehead and lands on Molly Shannon's lip.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was disgusting.
Why would you bring that up?
Because anytime you hear like anytime I hear like a pimple, that's the image that pops in my head. Like, ugh,
Oh,
good movie. I think there was a Gerard Butler Dracula 2000.
yeah.
You see that?
Yeah, it is such a early 2000s like movie. Oh my god.
Ugh.
I watched it on like the movie channel or something one day. I was like, Jesus Christ, what is this?
Oh, those are always the most fun watches where you're like, this is a thing that exists and I'm watching it. Why am I watching it? Like, those are the weirdest films.
Oh yeah, there was so back when when I when I was a child, the movie channel would do like I don't know if they still do it, but they used to do this like Triller Saturday or what the fuck they called it. But basically the double feature horror film every night. Now they weren't pulling up like your Hills Have Eyes or your big hitters. They were like, what independent low budget film can we find to put on here? Which so you got your movies like Fingerprints and the Hamiltons and things like that. And some of it actually wasn't bad. Some of it, yeah, it's a little, it's schlocky, but I had a good time with it. And the thing is, though, like the channel would come in with like this white bar constantly. Like we didn't get good reception on it. For anyone who wants to know this, back when cable was a thing, ladies and gentlemen. Um, but we got like the white bar. But I would watch it just because it was like I was in my room at night. It was just the setting with the white bar just added to the effect. And yeah, I think it was like playing on there one night, and I was like, oh, okay, why not? And I was watching. I was just like, I don't. What is this movie? What is going on?
Yeah. So, all right, we've run through them. Who would you say of from what you've seen is the best Dracula? Not the movie, the performance.
Um, Honestly, I'm gonna say it's a toss between Bela Lugosi for setting that standard so long ago,
Mhm.
commanding the screen. Because regardless of what you think of the film, he himself is magnetic to watching the movie.
Yeah.
Either him, and I'm sorry for anyone who is thinking, why did I just omit Christopher Lee here soon? It's because I actually haven't really watched Christopher Lee ones. I know I need to. Um, recently, honestly, I gotta give it to Nicolas Cage. I was really impressed with his fucking take on Dracula and Renfield. More people need to watch that film. It was great, and Nicolas Cage was great, and fuck the haters.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I I want to give it to Cage as well, just because the guy's having the time of his life. He's giving us his Dracula. I like that. I think I don't think enough people credit, especially today, Max Schreck with his performance of Count
Mhm.
Orlok and Nosferatu. I mean, that was the first, that was the beginning, And the shit he did in that movie, like the makeup and the commitment, is still unnerving as hell, and really set a gold standard for Dracula.
Oh yeah, the only reason I don't include him is because it's technically like unofficially
It's
not meant to be Dracula, but
it's
it totally
Count
is.
Orlok. It's not Dracula because at the time, rights were
Right.
expensive.
Yeah. Like that's the only reason, but yes, Max Shrek is so goddamn good in that movie. I'm so excited when the strike's over, of course, for Robert Eggers finally getting his Nosferatu off the ground. I'm so excited to see what he does with this.
Yeah,
Oh,
did he say who's going to be playing Count Orlok?
he did not, but have you looked at the cast though?
I have.
It's kind of like looking at the cast, I'm like, I think I know who's playing Count Orlok.
I mean, it'd be funny if it was Defoe because he did that in Shadow of the Vampire.
This is true. But I mean, I also thought I knew he was going to play fucking, the vampire in goddamn Salem's Lot, William Sadler, but
Mm,
when the hell is that movie coming out?
I don't
Warner
know.
Brothers?
There's another, literary vampire who I feel has not yet been adapted as well as he could be. Kurt Barlow. I'm very excited to see what James Wan does with that if he ever gives us the movie.
Warner Brothers, or should I say Warner Bros?
All right. Anything else you want to say about the last voyage of the Demeter? No.
Uh, Go check it out. Look, regardless of my feelings on it, at the end of the day, I just thought it was merely okay. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. But look, the good does outshine the bad in a lot of cases. Like I said, you got a really cool version of Dracula that's brutal, bloodthirsty, fun to watch. You got some really awesome gore effects when they go there. A very game committed cast on David Dastmalchian in particular is fucking phenomenal. And I've always loved the guy. He's great. Um, and then finally, just the sheer just watching a film, knowing the sheer practicality that went into this film. Like they built this boat, they put it in a fucking tank, and did all the rocking and stuff to make it legit and real as possible. And that kind of in a deluge of $300 million CGI shit fest we've been getting for years. Looking at you, Flash and Indiana Jones and so many other films. The fact that they made this for 45 million and did practical effects and made it look as good as it does, and as a gothic horror film in theaters, we do not. When's the last fucking time we got a true blue gothic horror film? I'm waiting um for an answer there. I say regardless, go out and check it out. It's a very different, unique take on Dracula that I think more people should be checking out.
I have an answer for you. Crimson Peak.
I haven't seen Crimson Peak actually.
It's not that great.
That's why I didn't watch it. I heard it was not what it was advertised, basically.
Yeah, no, it's not. I was impressed. My last thoughts on this, I did not expect for them to actually kill the kid.
Yeah. I thought maybe they'd find a way to work around that. Nope.
When he gets bit, and then in the next scene, he's like lying in the hospital quarters. I'm like, you didn't have the balls. And then he lights on fucking fire, and I'm like, oh no, you did. You had the balls. Well done. So I think this movie, tries really hard to be its own thing. It's a cool, unique take on Dracula, and I'm bummed that no one's really giving a shit.
Yeah, like I said, I know we've talked about ad nauseum this movie season. I thought for sure it was like, oh, it's a horror film. They've been pretty much doing well this year, as they always have been. And apparently not this time. Granted, doesn't mean I don't have to see a stupid article come out of Variety being like, oh, when did horror's back again? Because they seem to keep doing that every time there's like a successful film at the box office. I'm like, how is it we keep doing this story every time?
I remember we talked about that when we did Scream. We were like, the shock of every film critic being like, can you believe horror made money? Holy shit. It's only happening every single time. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I feel like I hope this time Universal isn't like, see, we told you horror doesn't make money. It's like it was your movie. You fucked this up.
Yeah. It's like, no, it's a movie that was 2 decades in development that could have done for your script rewrites and probably better advertisement, and then you probably would have had a hit on your hands. But yeah. Oh, dude, I guarantee you if like Saw X is a hit, which I'm sure it will be, because it looks like there's some pretty good positive like tracking on that film. Oh, I'm sure we'll hear it. Oh, Saw X hit. When did horror come back? Or in Five Nights at Freddy's like a sleeper hit.
It's yeah. Every time there's a horror hit, somebody writes that article, just like horror, the comeback no one expected. It's like fuck
Right.
you.
Oh wait, especially God when the Exorcist Believer comes out. Oh my God.
Well, we will see. What is our next horror film that we're planning? I think it's Saw.
Is it Saw? I think there's a pretty big break because September has a lot of non-horror stuff coming out that I'm kind of interested in.
Uh, well, I mean, The Nun too, but I don't think you're gonna
I'm
be.
not watching The Nun 2.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to find some backup for that one.
Yep. Look,
Um, there's a
fuck
Haunting in Venice, but I don't think that's
no.
really gonna be a horror movie.
And also just fuck no.
Yeah, you get The Nun and then Poirot, so just a back-to-back bullshit couple weeks for you.
Yeah. For anyone who hasn't heard the story, it took me 3 or 4 tries to sit through the dog shit movie that's The Nun because I kept falling asleep. I was so fucking bored by that piece of shit. And when I finally did watch it, I hated it.
Oh.
Hercule Poirot, God bless my mother and her love for that character. I hated it. I hated that show as a kid. Hated it. And I hated both these recent movies with every fiber of my fucking being. I will not fall for this bullshit they're trying to do with the third one. And hey, guys, it's a horror film. No, it's not. Fuck you. I'm not falling for it.
Death on the Nile is the movie that killed the sneak preview. That was when we were both like, we are forcing the fuck out of this. We got to figure this out.
Yes. You know, you want to give me a classic horror-based detective movie? Adapt Hound of the Baskervilles, you fucks. Give me that. I like Sherlock Holmes. Give me that.
That's a good. They did a couple times in the like 30s and 40s, so like you can watch the older ones. But yeah, I agree. That'd be a nice. That'd be a great Sherlock Holmes 3 when Robert Downey Jr. and Jude Law finally get that off the ground.
I know, right? How long they're still trying to get that off the ground? I thought they gave up finally.
No, Downey keeps insisting it's going to happen, but then he doesn't do it.
He's only getting older.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I think for me and you, the next horror movie we're going to talk about is Saw 10. And then
yes.
Yeah. I will hopefully do something with The Nun 2 and Haunting in Venice, just not with you.
No, I'm good on both of those. I do not need to rush to the theater and see them. The trailer for The Nun 2 didn't even fucking impress me. I'm just watching going, yeah, looks like more of the bullshit I hated in the first movie.
What makes me laugh is that the 2 is like in the background. It doesn't really look like a 2, so it looks like they're just re-releasing The Nun.
Yeah. Also, is it me or is Thaisa? I know they're sisters, so let bring preface with that. But she's looking strikingly a lot like Vera Farmiga when she was younger. Like from the haircut and everything, I'm like, it's almost identical.
Yep, siblings tend to look alike. That's an interesting observation.
I know, but they're not like identical twins because there's a huge ass age gap between them, which it's the fact that they are looking so identical. I'm like, Jesus, I know they're sisters, but
Neat. I don't know.
all I got for The Nun too, because besides that, I don't give a shit.
I don't know why the Conjuring universe has gone so hard on this Nun. Like, I don't. First off, they're adapting like semi-real case files of actual instances of possible possession or haunting, but then they're throwing this fucking fake nun into all of their stories.
Yeah. Also, did you see that they finally, I guess, confirmed that Curse of La Llorona is not part of the franchise, but it's also interesting to note, wait for it, that's the lowest grossing one. So kind of convenient that it's not a part of the franchise.
You can't just kick shit out after the fact. You can't do that. You can't advertise it as the darkest chapter of the Conjuring franchise. It's on the fucking poster and then just say, never mind.
Oh, we didn't make a lot of money off that one? Never mind. Well, what about the fact that you put the priest character that's in all the horror films in this, clearly a part of the universe? You're just maxing it to make money. I mean, I have all my own issues with why Curse of La Llorona was a flop.
So if the Nun 2 bombs horribly, it just doesn't count.
Probably.
That's what we're doing now. Cool. That's the cop out.
And then Thaisa Farmiga will just go to the main Conjuring film probably to star alongside her sister.
All these take place like 100 years before The Conjuring.
Actually, I think the Nun 2 will be much closer to the first Conjuring. Because remember in the first movie, the person they're exercising is the French guy.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, it's 1956 is when The Nun 2 takes place. And The Conjuring takes place in the 80s. So okay, never mind.
So you actually could get Tyson and her forming in a movie together somehow.
They could. Yeah, they probably will. I don't know. That's another franchise that lost its fucking steam a while ago.
Really quick too.
Yeah. But you know what? We'll always have Saw.
If it's Halloween, it must be Saw. Dun 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 dun. Dun.
They know they've always known what they're doing. They're endlessly rewatchable. All 9 movies are fun, god damn it. And this 10th looks just as fun.
You know what I like about this upcoming 10th film? They're clearly not even trying to make him look young. Like they're not even doing the backwards hat. They're like, fuck it, it's Tobin Bell. We don't give a shit. People are going no one's going to care.
To be fair, Tobin Bell has looked like that since the 90s. Like there's not much they could they don't have to do anything.
I know. I just think it's funny that someone just went, who gives a shit? Just put him in the movie.
I can't wait to see the continuity errors this movie adds into the franchise. But you know what? Fuck it.
That first initial set of films had great continuity, and then they keep trying to reboot it. It fucks it up more and more.
I think it'd be great if they embraced Jigsaw and just had that apprentice be part of this movie, helping him lift boxes and shit.
Yeah, right. Or shows what happened to the hot Corona lady with the fucking sleeve tattoo. She just gets kidnapped towards the end of the film, and then we never know what happens to her because we never followed up the storyline.
Oh yeah, I gotta watch all those again. All right. Well, let's clear out here. Go see The Last Voyage of the Demeter. It's a decent film. Could use the money. And yeah, we'll be back next week with, I believe, possibly Blue Beetle or Strays, depending on how we're feeling and if we can get it. Because my theater has yet to pick up Blue Beetle because they don't fucking care. And you know what? I don't care either.
You would have thought we're in a year where no one cares about superhero films for once. Wow.
Yeah, well, when you oversaturate the market, that's what happens. Look at Guitar Hero. No one's playing that anymore. You know why? Oversaturation.
They tried bringing it back too.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed nearly had that problem too. Thankfully,
I know.
they pulled back.
They did, because I'm not gonna lie, Mirage looks pretty goddamn good.
Yeah, here's hoping. Take it easy. See you next time, and go see it.